What's up, everybody? Unrested with the questions you requested. This is JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions. Today we are covering an article that was actually about 2 weeks ago. I did a video on it, and the cicada in the background of the video were so loud that when I tried to listen to the video after recording it, I could barely hear myself talk. So I'm going to try and record this again. Still, I'm indoors and I'm inside of a mall where there's constantly a voice talking over the speakers in the background. So again, if the sound quality is bad, I apologize. I'm going to try and do my best and speak up as much as I can without looking like a freak shouting at my camera in the mall. But literally, I have to come inside to record this video because it's too loud from cicada outside. They're literally like screeching in this just cacophony of background noise. It just won't even let you hear me talk. Anyway, let's jump right in. We're talking about the guy who set himself on fire on the Shinkansen. The Shinkansen is the bullet train, for those of you who don't know. This happened about 2 weeks ago. The man was 71 years old, if I have the age correct. I may be off by a year or two, but he was in his 70s, let's put it that way. No matter what, I'm right about that. And he was divorced, he was retired, and his reason behind setting himself on fire was later found out due to the fact that the police searched his home and found a suicide note. That suicide note stated that he felt he wasn't getting enough money, that is pension money, from the government to cover both medical costs, rental costs, and cost of living, quality of life living. And that he had worked his whole life so hard and now was receiving little to no benefit for doing that. And he blamed the Japanese government, and this was kind of his way of issuing a statement by setting himself on fire on public transportation. Great. So the act of setting oneself on fire is usually used as an act of pretty much the strongest protest you could possibly make. Recently in Japan, a little while back, a man set himself on fire on top of a bridge to protest Japan changing their constitution so that they can be an offensive country rather than a defensive country. That is, they can go out and attack if they feel that land of theirs is being taken over by other countries, hence the recent battle between them and China over a couple of small islands. That is just, it's a ridiculous little fight. It's so stupid. Honestly, I feel like both sides are acting like little children over this island. Anyway, that man set himself on fire too, but he actually did it in a secluded area up on top of a bridge away from the public, but he did do it in a very public area. He did not endanger anyone while doing it, but he did, of course, set himself on fire. He actually did not die, which a lot of people, they didn't actually know that. I don't know if they just didn't read the full article. A lot of people are saying like, yeah, another guy set himself on fire and committed suicide the same way. He attempted to, but he survived. He is, as far as I know, he's still in like critical condition. He's still alive. He's in a ICU. I can't imagine his quality of life is going to be very good after this. He's most definitely going to regret. But this guy died, the guy who did it on the train, the Shinkansen, the guy who set himself on fire. And I really have a problem, and I'm not the type of person who would ever say suicide is selfish. I'm not the type of person who's going to victim blame and say, oh, that person who committed suicide didn't think about anybody else who was in their life and how much it affected them. No, honestly, when I think of someone committing suicide, and I'm using this analogy because it's one Softy Papa, Kurt, used to say, and I'm not saying this just because it happens to deal with fire, but he once said that a person who wants to commit suicide is like a person who's on fire and sees a lake that they can jump into, and it'll put out the fire and stop their pain, and that lake is death. And that's what I see. I see a person who just wants to put out the pain, who wants to stop the pain, who thinks like the only way they can extinguish that pain is by jumping into that lake, which is death. The analogy to fire just happens to exist, that these people decide to commit suicide via fire. And in this situation, though, I don't feel like that was the modus operandi. I don't feel like that was his MO for committing suicide. I feel like he did want to make a statement, but I feel like he did it in a very selfish way. And here's my argument for why. Just listen up. And afterwards, if you disagree, that's fine. I want everybody to have their own opinion. I'm not going to say mine's right. I'm just going to say this is mine. Number one, he decided to use public transportation and put a lot of people in danger. Now, there is stories that he told a couple people to leave the car right before he did this immolation, which is set yourself on fire, self-sacrifice, destruction of oneself immolation. And those people got out of there, but the woman sitting next to him, in the passenger seat next to him, she died. She died from smoke inhalation. And she was just an innocent old lady who had gone to a temple that day to praise the good luck she had been having in her life. That's what her daily task had been. She just wanted to have a peaceful day of going to temple, praising the gods for her lucky life recently, and heading back home. And then she's killed by a madman who sets himself on fire. And it's so sad. You know, everything in her life was going great. On top of it, the Shinkansen then had to stop, of course. They had to get firefighters on there. They had to get everything secured. They had to stop everybody who was trying to get home and send them on to another train. And who knows how late they got home. Who knows how much money they had to spend, probably to use a taxi or some other form of transportation. And it gets even worse. Here's where the selfishness goes even deeper. And I guess we can kind of half the blame onto how the law system in Japan works too, but his wife, who he divorced, who they both got a divorce a while back, is a long time ago, she is now going to have to pay reparations. And by that I mean she's going to have to pay money back. She's going to have to pay a certain amount of money too. Number one, the woman who died, she has to pay money to her family to cover, like, you know, the cost of her funeral, kind of like to cover the amount of money that she would have been making in her life to support any family members that she was supporting. She also needs to pay for the amount of ticket loss that the Shinkansen suffered during the time that it took them offline, that stopped the train, put them down for a bit, and firefighters had to come. So all the estimated ticket sales, and what they'll do is they'll just take, you know, that time and place and do an average over a year of how much money they usually make around that time on that passage, on that track, with that train, and total it up and say, here's how much we lost this day, this is usually how much we usually make, and we had to stop the train because your ex-husband decided to commit suicide on it, and she's gonna have to pay that. And that, I mean, that could literally be into the millions, guys. I mean, they make a ton of money each day. The Shinkansen's expensive. It's one of the most expensive trains you're gonna ride in Japan because it's the bullet train. I mean, it's, you know, it's got unique properties that make it expensive. And now she's gonna have to make up the cost for that. And she has nothing to do with this. I mean, she most likely divorced the guy in the past because he used to do selfish stuff, I'm guessing. I mean, this is, you know, complete guessing here. But now I guess his selfish side haunts her even past death, and she has to make up for it. This is insanity. I can't believe she has to do that. And again, like I said, this is, you know, I put the blame on that guy, but I guess I also have put the blame on the way Japanese laws work. I think that is a very, very unfair law to have to make someone who's not even really blood related, because I mean, you're married, you're not actually blood related, pay for the damages a guy who you tried to get away from did to people you have nothing to do with. I mean, that sucks. That's horrible. You know, and again, like I said, if you guys don't feel like this guy was being selfish, that he had a right to make this statement, personally, I feel there's other ways to make this statement. Like I just said, the other guy who committed suicide up on that bridge did it away from bystanders and people he could injure. He still got seen, he still got his message across, people were still, you know, abhorring the horrible act, but he didn't injure anybody except himself. So, I don't know. And I mean, do you have to set yourself on fire, and do you have to do it on public transportation, a place where you know there's going to be an ample amount of people? You know, there's other public ways to do stuff that won't injure people, that won't put people in harm's way. I don't know, guys. Crazy with fires in Japan recently. The guy sets his house on fire with 8 kids in it, and another guy sets himself on fire while he's on the Shinkansen. I don't know if it's summer heat driving people insane or what. I mean, but again, please, the crime rate here is so low in comparison to my own country. I have nothing to complain about. Okay, I'm not trying to say like, look at how crazy Japan is. So many other countries, so much crazier, so much crazier than Japan. My own country is way crazier than Japan. So please don't think I'm just out to like make the culture look like a form of entertainment and say woe is me for living here. I still love Japan. Japan's awesome. It's safer than any country I've ever lived in my life. It's an awesome country. That being said, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your feedback. I want to hear your comments on the situation. Do you think this guy was selfish? Do you think this guy was in the right? Do you think there's a better way to make a statement to the government about how you think you're being treated as far as pension money? Apparently this guy was getting something like $700 in pension money a month and was paying something like $400 for rent and $200 for medical costs, leaving him with only $100 to live on for 1 month per month in Japan, which is, I mean, that's not very easy. That would be incredibly difficult. I can sympathize with him, at least as far as money is concerned, that would be incredibly difficult to live on. Anyway, guys, comment back. Let me hear what you got to say. Until next time, I'm unrested with the questions you requested. This is JFAQ, Japan's frequently asked questions. Thanks so much.